The space around the dead colony ship was quiet and cold. Captain Zeltar stood on the bridge of his research vessel, the Astral Dawn, looking at the broken pieces of metal floating in the darkness. His blue skin had a pale glow under the ship's lights, and his long fingers tapped against the control panel as he thought. "Captain, we are getting some interesting readings from the largest piece," said Lieutenant Kethra from her station. Her voice was soft and musical like most of her people. The Zephyrians were known for their gentle nature and love of knowledge. They spent most of their time exploring space, looking for new things to learn and study. Zeltar nodded and walked closer to the main screen. The image showed a huge chunk of what used to be a human colony ship. The humans had tried to escape their dying planet many years ago, but most of their ships had been destroyed. This one looked like it had been drifting in space for a very long time. "How long has it been out here?" the captain asked. "Our computers say about 200 years, maybe more," Kethra replied. The ship's name was the New Hope. It was carrying about 5,000 humans when it left Earth. The captain felt sad thinking about all those people who had died so long ago. The Zephyrians had heard stories about humans, but they had never met any. The humans were supposed to be gone now, wiped out when their sun exploded and their enemies finished off the survivors. "Take us closer," Zeltar ordered. "Maybe we can learn something about these humans. The Galactic Council would want to know what we find." Dr. Velnara looked up from her workstation. She was the ship's best scientist, and she loved studying different life forms. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, I'm reading some very strange energy patterns from inside that wreck. Some of the ship's systems might still be working." "Working after 200 years?" asked Security Chief Torvan. He was bigger than most Zephyrians, with scars on his arms from his younger days as a soldier. "That seems impossible. Human technology was not that advanced." "Maybe not impossible," Dr. Velnara said. "Humans were very good at making things that could last a long time. They had to be, living on such a dangerous planet." The Astral Dawn moved closer to the wreck. The colony ship had been huge when it was whole, but now only about 1/4 of it remained. The rest had been blown away or burned up. The part that was left looked like it had been the middle section, where the important systems would have been kept. "I can see into some of the rooms," reported the ship's scanner operator. "Most of them are empty, but there is one section that still has air and power. It looks like it might be a medical area." Captain Zeltar made his decision. "Prepare a team to go over there. Dr. Velnara, you will lead the science team. Torvan, take 3 guards with you. Be very careful. We do not know what we might find." An hour later, the small team floated through space in their protective suits, heading toward the wreck. The colony ship looked even more damaged up close. Big holes had been torn in its sides, and pieces of metal stuck out at strange angles. But the section they were heading to looked more solid. They found an airlock that still worked and went inside. The lights came on automatically, which surprised everyone. After 200 years, most systems should have failed. "The air is good," Dr. Velnara said, checking her instruments. "We can take off our helmets if we want to." They kept their suits on just to be safe and started exploring. The halls were narrow and dark, with only emergency lights working. Everything was covered in dust, and their footsteps echoed in the silence. "This way," Dr. Velnara said, following her scanner. "The power source is coming from down this hall." They walked through several rooms filled with old medical equipment. Most of it was broken or covered in dust, but some machines still had lights blinking on them. The humans had built things to last, just like Dr. Velnara had said. "Here," she said, stopping in front of a large door. "The strongest readings are coming from in there." The door was locked, but Torvan was able to force it open with his tools. Inside was a room filled with large white boxes that looked like coffins. Most of them were dark and cold, but one in the corner was still humming softly. "Cryogenic pods," Dr. Velnara whispered. "The humans use these to sleep during long space trips." She walked over to the working pod and looked at the small screen. On its side, numbers and words in human language scrolled by, too fast for her to read, but she could see that something was still alive inside. "Captain," she said into her communicator, "you need to hear this. We found someone." Someone alive? Came Zeltar's voice, full of surprise. Yes, a human. He has been sleeping in here for over 200 years, and he is still alive. There was a long pause before the captain spoke again. Are you sure it is safe? Torvin stepped forward. Captain, I do not think this is a good idea. Humans were known to be very dangerous. They fought wars all the time and destroyed their own planet. We should leave this thing alone. But Dr. Velnara was already studying the pod more closely. Look at this, she said, pointing to the display. His name is Jake Morrison. He was some kind of soldier. The pod says he is in perfect health. A soldier? Torvin said, his voice worried. That makes it even more dangerous. Human soldiers? Were trained to kill. But he might be the last human alive in the whole galaxy, Dr. Velnara argued. Think of what we could learn from him. Think of the history he could tell us. Captain Zeltar's voice came through the communicator again. Bring the pod back to our ship. We will defrost him there where we can control the situation better. But be very careful. It took them several hours to disconnect the pod from the ship's power systems and move it to the astral dawn. The whole time, Torvin kept complaining that they were making a big mistake. Humans were not like us, he said as they loaded the pod into their ship's medical bay. They were violent and unpredictable. Their whole species destroyed itself fighting wars. Not all of them were bad, Dr. Velnara replied. Some humans were scientists and artists and teachers. This one might be different. He is a soldier, Torvin said firmly. Soldiers are trained to fight and kill. That is what they do. Dr. Velnara did not answer. She was too busy setting up the equipment to safely wake up the sleeping human. The process would take several hours, and she wanted to make sure everything went perfectly. Captain Zeltar came down to the medical bay to watch. How long will it take? He asked. About 6 hours to bring his body temperature up slowly, Dr. Velnara said. If we do it too fast, we could damage his brain or other organs. And you are sure he will be safe when he wakes up? I do not know, she admitted. But we have stun weapons and force fields if we need them. And think about it, Captain. He has been asleep for 200 years. Everyone he ever knew is dead. His whole species is gone. He will need our help. The captain nodded, but he looked worried. Just be ready for anything. We do not know what kind of person this Jake Morrison was or what he might do when he learns that he is alone in the universe. As the defrosting process began, none of them knew that they were about to wake up one of the most dangerous humans who had ever lived. They thought they were rescuing a survivor, but they were actually releasing something far more powerful than they could imagine. The first thing Jake Morrison felt was cold. A deep, bone-deep cold that seemed to reach into every part of his body. Then came the pain, sharp and stabbing, as his muscles tried to remember how to work. He tried to open his eyes, but the light was too bright. Easy, said a voice that sounded strange and musical. You are safe. Do not try to move too quickly. Jake's eyes slowly adjusted to the light. He saw faces looking down at him, but they were not human faces. The beings were tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes that seemed to glow softly. Their limbs were longer than human arms and legs, and they moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost like dancing. Where am I? Jake asked, his voice rough and dry. His throat felt like sandpaper. You are on our ship, said one of the beings. It was clearly female, with a gentler voice than the others. My name is Dr. Velnara. We found you sleeping in your ship and brought you here. Jake tried to sit up, but his body would not obey him properly. Everything felt weak and strange. What ship? Where is my crew? Dr. Velnara's expression became sad. I am sorry, but there was no crew. You were alone in the cryogenic pod. Your ship was destroyed, and you were the only survivor we could find. The memories came flooding back to Jake. The evacuation of Colony 7, the enemy ships attacking, the desperate escape in the colony ship New Hope. He remembered getting into the cryopod as the ship was being torn apart by enemy fire. How long? He asked quietly. How long what? How long was I asleep? Dr. Velnara looked uncomfortable. A very long time, over 200 years. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. 200 years. Everyone he had ever known was dead. His friends, his family, his commanding officers, all gone. What about Earth? He asked, though he was afraid of the answer. I am sorry, Dr. Velnara said softly. Earth was destroyed about 50 years ago. The sun went unstable and exploded. The few humans who had left the planet were hunted, down by their enemies. As far as we know, you are the last human alive. Jake closed his eyes and tried to process this information. Everything he had fought for, everyone he had loved, his entire species was gone. He was alone in a universe that no longer had any place for him. I need to get up, he said, trying to swing his legs over the side of the medical bed. Please wait, Dr. Velnara said. Your body needs time to adjust. You have been frozen for over 2 centuries. Your muscles and organs need to relearn how to function properly. But Jake was already standing, though he had to hold on to the bed to keep from falling. The alien medical equipment beeped and flashed as his movement triggered various sensors. Fascinating, Dr. Velnara said, checking her instruments. Your recovery rate is much faster than our models predicted. Human physiology is more resilient than we thought. Another alien entered the room. This one was larger than Dr. Velnara, with scars on his arms and a more aggressive stance. Jake's military training automatically assessed him as a potential threat. This is Security Chief Torvan, Dr. Velnara said. He is here to make sure you are not dangerous. Dangerous? Jake asked, looking at the security chief. I can barely stand up. You are a human soldier, Torvan said bluntly. Humans were known for their violence and unpredictability. I am here to protect my crew. Jake studied the alien's posture and equipment. What kind of weapons do your people use? Why do you want to know? Torvan asked, his hand moving toward something on his belt. Because I am trying to figure out if you are afraid of me or if you are planning to hurt me, Jake said calmly. I am alone, unarmed, and barely able to walk. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it already. So I think you are just being careful. Dr. Velnara looked impressed. Even after everything you have been through, you are still thinking tactically. It is what I was trained to do, Jake said. But I am not your enemy. I do not even know who you people are. We are called Zephyrians, Dr. Velnara explained. We are explorers and scientists. We travel through space looking for new knowledge and discoveries. And you found me. Yes. We found your ship drifting in a debris field. You were the only life sign we detected. Jake sat back down on the medical bed, suddenly feeling very tired. What happens to me now? That depends on you, said a new voice. Jake looked up to see another Zephyrian entering the room. This one wore different clothes and carried himself with the confidence of someone in command. I am Captain Zeltar, the newcomer said. This is my ship and you are my guest, but I need to know what kind of person you are before I decide what to do with you. Jake looked at the 3 aliens surrounding him. They seemed genuinely curious. About him, not hostile. What do you want to know? Tell us about yourself, Captain Zeltar said. What was your job on the colony ship? What kind of soldier were you? Jake thought about how to answer. These people had saved his life, but they were also clearly nervous about him. He decided to tell them the truth, or at least part of it. Was a lieutenant commander in the Earth Defense Force, he said. My job was to protect the colony ships during evacuation operations. When the enemy attacked, I helped get people to safety. What enemy? Dr. Velnara asked. The Devourers, Jake said, and he saw the aliens exchange glances. They were a species that consumed entire planets. They had been attacking human colonies for years, getting closer and closer to Earth. We have heard of the Devourers, Captain, Zeltar said grimly. They were destroyed about 100 years ago by a coalition of species, but they did terrible damage before they were stopped. Good, Jake said with satisfaction. I am glad someone finished them off. Dr. Velnara was studying her medical readings. Jake, your body shows signs of some very advanced modifications. Your bone density is much higher than normal human levels and your muscle structure is different. Were you enhanced in some way? Jake hesitated. The enhancement program had been top secret, and he was not sure if he should reveal it. But these people had saved his life and they seemed to be telling him the truth about everything else. Yes, he said finally. I was part of an experimental program. They made me stronger and faster, so I could fight better. How much stronger? Torvald asked suspiciously. I do not know exactly, Jake said. The program was still being tested when the evacuation started. I never got to find out what my full capabilities were. Captain Zeltar made a decision. Jake Morrison, you are welcome to stay on my ship as long as you want. We can take you to one of the peaceful worlds where you can start a new life. But I need you to promise me that you will not hurt any of my crew. Jake looked at each of the aliens in turn. They had saved him from a cold death in space, told him the truth about his situation, and now they were offering to help him start over. It was more kindness than he had expected. I promise, he said. I will not hurt anyone unless they try to hurt me first. That is fair, right? That is fair, Captain Zeltar agreed. Dr. Velnara smiled, which looked strange on her alien features but somehow felt genuine. Welcome aboard the Astral Dawn, Jake Morrison. Let us see if we can help you find a place in this new galaxy. But as Jake settled into his new life aboard the alien ship, none of them realized just how much the experimental enhancements had changed him. The man they had awakened was far more than just an enhanced soldier. He was something new, something powerful, something that the galaxy had never seen before. The real test of what Jake Morrison had become would come soon enough. Jake had been on the Astral Dawn for 3 weeks when the accident happened. He had been learning about the ship and getting stronger every day. Dr. Velnara was amazed at how quickly he recovered from his long sleep. Most beings would need months to get back to normal, but Jake seemed to get better each day. The Zephyrians were kind to him. They gave him his own room and taught him how to use their technology. Jake was a fast learner. He picked up their language in just a few days and could operate most of their equipment without help. Captain Zeltar often invited Jake to the bridge to watch how they navigated through space. The human was curious about everything and asked many questions. His military background helped him understand their tactical systems quickly. You learn very fast, Captain Zeltar said one day, as Jake successfully plotted a course to their next destination. Most beings take weeks to learn what you picked up in hours. I had good teachers back home, Jake replied, but his smile faded when he remembered that home no longer existed. Dr. Velnara noticed that Jake was always careful around the crew. He never got too close to anyone and always seemed to be watching and thinking. She wondered if this was normal for human soldiers or if Jake was hiding something. Security Chief Torvald still did not trust Jake completely. He watched the human carefully and noticed things that others missed. Jake moved differently than he should. His reflexes were too quick, and he seemed to know things about their ship that he should not know. There is something strange about that human, Torvald told Dr. Velnara one day. He is not what he appears to be. What do you mean? She asked. Watch him sometime. Really watch him. The way he moves, the way he responds to things. It is not natural. Dr. Velnara did start watching Jake more carefully, but she did not see what worried Torvald. Jake seemed like a normal person who was trying to fit into a new world. Then came the day when everything changed. Jake was in the cargo bay, helping with some routine maintenance when the ship's artificial gravity generator started making strange noises. The device was old and sometimes had problems, but this time it sounded worse than usual. Lieutenant Kethra was working on another project nearby when the gravity generator suddenly failed completely. Everything in the cargo bay that was not bolted down immediately started floating. Tools, spare parts, and heavy cargo containers began drifting around the room like leaves in the wind. Emergency alert, came the announcement over the ship's communication system. Gravity failure in Cargo Bay 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. Kethra tried to reach the exit, but a heavy metal container was floating between her and the door. She pushed off from a wall to try to go around it, but more debris was floating in her path. She was trapped in the middle of the room with dangerous objects spinning slowly around her. "Help!" she called out. "I cannot get to the door." Jake was near the entrance when the gravity failed. He could have easily left the room and been safe, but he heard Kethra's call for help. Without thinking, he pushed himself into the floating chaos. What happened next made everyone who saw it stop and stare. Jake moved through the zero gravity like he had been born in space. He did not fumble or spin out of control like most beings did when gravity failed. Instead, he flowed from one handhold to another with perfect grace and timing. A large cargo container was spinning toward Kethra. It weighed over 2 tons and would have crushed her if it hit. Jake reached it first and simply stopped it with his hands. The container, which should have kept moving and carried Jake with it, just stopped. Kethra stared in shock. "How did you do that?" Jake did not answer. He was already moving toward the next problem. Several smaller containers were bouncing around the room like bullets. He caught them one by one and guided them to safe positions against the walls. Dr. Velnara arrived at the cargo bay entrance just in time to see Jake grab a spinning beam that was about to hit the gravity generator itself. The beam was made of solid metal and was as long as a person. Jake caught it with one hand and redirected it away from the sensitive equipment. "This is impossible," she whispered. Jake worked for 10 more minutes, catching and securing every loose object in the cargo bay. When he was finished, Kethra was able to reach the door safely. The gravity generator was undamaged and could be repaired. As soon as Jake and Kethra were out of the cargo bay, the emergency team sealed the room and began working on the gravity system. Captain Zeltar arrived to check on his crew. "Is everyone all right?" he asked. "Yes, Captain," Kethra said, "but only because Jake saved me. He moved like nothing I have ever seen before." Captain Zeltar looked at Jake, who was standing quietly near the wall. "Jake, how did you do what you did in there?" "I just helped," Jake said. "Anyone would have done the same thing." "No," Dr. Velnara said firmly. "Anyone else would have been killed. Those containers weighed tons. You stopped them like they were toys." Jake looked uncomfortable. "I told you I was enhanced. The program made me stronger." "How much stronger?" Captain Zeltar asked. "I do not know exactly," Jake replied. "We never finished the testing." Security Chief Torvin stepped forward. "I want to know what kind of enhancements you have. Our safety might depend on it." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and nodded. "All right. But you might not like what you hear." They went to the medical bay where Dr. Velnara could run more detailed scans. Jake sat on the examination table while the equipment analyzed his body. "Your bone density is 3 times normal human levels," Dr. Velnara said, reading the results. "Your muscle fibers are completely different from baseline humans, and there are artificial components integrated into your nervous system." "What does that mean?" Captain Zeltar asked. "It means Jake is not just enhanced," Dr. Velnara said slowly. "He has been rebuilt. His entire body has been changed from the cellular level up." Jake nodded. The enhancement program was not just about making soldiers stronger. They were trying to create beings who could survive anything. Space combat, hostile environments, extreme conditions that would kill normal humans. "How strong are you?" Torvin asked bluntly. "I can lift about 10 tons without much effort," Jake said. "My reflexes are about 20 times faster than normal humans. I can see better, hear better, and think faster. The artificial components in my nervous system let me interface directly with most computer systems." The room was silent as everyone absorbed this information. "Jake," Captain Zeltar said carefully, "you could have overpowered all of us at any time since you woke up." "Yes," Jake said simply. "Why did you not?" Jake looked surprised by the question. "Why would I? You saved my life. You have been kind. To me. You are good people." Dr. Velnara felt a chill run down her spine. "Jake, there were others like you, were there not? Other enhanced humans?" "Yes, the program created about 50 of us before Earth was destroyed. I do not know if any of the others survived." Captain Zeltar stood up slowly. "Jake, you need to understand something. If there are others like you out there, and if they are not as honorable as you are, they could be very dangerous to the peaceful species in this galaxy. I know, Jake said quietly. That is one of the reasons I have been so careful around all of you. I know what I am capable of, and I know how that must look to people who just want to explore and learn. Security Chief Torvin relaxed slightly. You have been protecting us from yourself. In a way, yes. My entire species is gone. You people are all I have now. I would rather die than hurt any of you. Dr. Velnara felt tears in her eyes. Here was a being who could probably conquer entire worlds if he wanted to, but instead, he chose to be gentle and helpful. You are welcome, here for as long as you want to stay, Captain Zeltar said. But now that we know what you are capable of, maybe you can help us with more than just maintenance work. Jake smiled for the first time since revealing his true nature. I would be happy to help however I can. None of them knew that their peaceful voyage was about to be interrupted by enemies who would test just how powerful Jake Morrison really was. 2 days after Jake revealed his true abilities, the Astral Dawn was traveling through a quiet section of space when the trouble started. Jake was on the bridge with Captain Zeltar, learning about their navigation systems, when Lieutenant Kethra suddenly looked up from her station with alarm. Captain, I am detecting 3 ships approaching us fast, she said. They are not responding to our communication signals. Captain Zeltar frowned and looked at the main screen. 3 dark ships were moving toward them at high speed. They were ugly vessels covered in spikes and weapons. Jake recognized the design immediately. Those are Krillian warships, he said grimly. You know about the Krillians? Captain Zeltar asked. We fought them a few times before Earth was destroyed, Jake replied. They are raiders and slavers. They attack peaceful ships and take everything valuable, including the crew. As if to prove Jake's point, a harsh voice came over the communication system. Zephyrian vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender now and we might let some of you live as slaves. Security Chief Torvin came onto the bridge quickly. Captain, they have us surrounded. Each of their ships has more weapons than our entire vessel. Captain Zeltar looked at his options. The Astral Dawn was a research ship, not a warship. It had some defensive weapons, but nothing that could fight 3 Krillian attack vessels. His crew was made up of scientists and explorers, not soldiers. We cannot run, he said sadly. They are faster than us, and we cannot fight them. They will destroy us. So we surrender? Dr. Velnara asked as she entered the bridge. It is the only way to save the crew, Captain Zeltar replied. Maybe we can negotiate for better treatment. Jake stood up from his chair. Captain, may I make a suggestion? What is it? Let me handle this. Everyone on the bridge stared at Jake. Handle this how? Torvin asked. Give me access to your weapon and navigation systems, Jake said calmly. I can get us out of this. Jake, there are 3 of them and only one of us, Captain Zeltar said. Even with your abilities, you cannot fight 3 warships. I am not going to fight them, Jake said. I am going to outsmart them. The Krillian voice came over the communication system again, angrier this time. You have 30 seconds to surrender or we will start shooting. Captain Zeltar looked at his crew, then at Jake. What do you need? Just access to the ship's systems, Jake said, moving to the main control panel. Jake placed his hands on the control interface, and suddenly the bridge computers began working faster than anyone had ever seen. Numbers and data flowed across the screen so quickly that the Zephyrians could not follow what was happening. What are you doing? Dr. Velnara asked. Learning everything about their ships, Jake replied, his eyes moving rapidly as he processed information. Engine specifications, weapon ranges, shield frequencies, crew positions. The Krillians use old technology, and I know their weaknesses. Time is up, came the Krillian voice. Prepare to die. The 3 enemy ships opened fire at the same time. Bright energy beams shot toward the Astral Dawn from all directions. It looked like the research vessel would be destroyed in seconds. But Jake was ready. The Astral Dawn suddenly spun and twisted through space in ways that should not have been possible. It moved like a dancer, flowing between the enemy weapons fire without being hit. The Zephyrians on the bridge held on tight as their ship performed maneuvers that pushed its engines beyond their normal limits. "How are you doing this?" Captain Zeltar shouted over the noise of the straining engines. "I am using your engines at 150% capacity," Jake replied, his hands moving over the controls so fast they were almost invisible. "The ship can handle it for a short time." The Krillians were confused and angry. Their target was supposed to be an easy victim, but instead it was dancing around their attacks like it could read their minds. Jake was not just avoiding their weapons. He was studying their attack patterns and finding weaknesses. The Krillians were used to fighting enemies who were afraid and made mistakes. They were not prepared for someone who could think faster than their computers. "Now I go on the attack," Jake said. The Astral Dawn's small defensive weapons came online, but Jake was not using them in the normal way. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships, he targeted very specific parts of each vessel. His first shot hit the lead Krillian ship's main sensor array. The ship suddenly went blind and started firing in random directions. His second shot disabled the engines on the second ship, leaving it floating helplessly in space. The third Krillian ship tried to escape, but Jake had already calculated where it would go. He fired once more, and the enemy vessel's weapon systems exploded. The ship was not destroyed, but it could no longer fight. In less than 5 minutes, Jake had defeated 3 enemy warships using a science vessel with light defensive weapons. The bridge was completely silent except for the sound of the ship's systems returning to normal. Everyone stared at Jake, who was calmly shutting down the weapon systems. "How?" was all Captain Zeltar could say. "The Krillians use predictable tactics," Jake explained. "They rely on fear and superior firepower to win fights. When they face someone who is not afraid and who can think tactically, they do not know what to do." Dr. Velnara checked her instruments. "The enemy ships are all disabled but not destroyed. Their crews are still alive." "I did not want to kill them if I did not have to," Jake said. "They were just following orders." Lieutenant Kethra looked at her readings in amazement. "Jake, during that fight, you were processing information faster than our main computer. You were tracking 3 ships, monitoring our engine status, calculating firing solutions, and planning maneuvers all at the same time. The enhancements include cognitive improvements," Jake said simply. "In combat situations, I can think much faster than normal." Security Chief Torvan walked over to Jake and put his hand on the human's shoulder. "I owe you an apology. I thought you were dangerous to us, but you just saved all our lives." "I am dangerous," Jake said seriously, "but only to people who want to hurt innocent beings." Captain Zeltar activated the communication system to contact the disabled Krillian ships. "This is Captain Zeltar of the Astral Dawn. Your ships are disabled. Leave this area immediately and do not return, or next time we will not be so merciful," one of the Krillian captains responded, his voice full of confusion and fear. "What are you? How did you defeat us so easily?" "We are explorers and scientists," Captain Zeltar replied. "We do not want to fight anyone, but we will defend ourselves, if we must." The Krillians managed to get their ships moving again and left the area quickly. They had never encountered anything like what just happened and did not want to risk another fight. After the enemy ships were gone, the bridge crew finally relaxed. Dr. Velnara was the first to speak. "Jake, what you did was incredible. You turned our research vessel into the most effective warship I have ever seen." "It was not the ship," Jake said. "Any vessel can be dangerous if you know how to use it properly. The key is understanding your enemy and using their weaknesses against them." "Captain," Zeltar looked thoughtful. "Jake, if there are other enhanced humans like you out there, and if they chose to be protectors instead of conquerors, they could help keep the peace in the galaxy." "Maybe," Jake said. "But first we have to find them, and we have to hope they remember what it means to be human." As the Astral Dawn continued its journey through space, word of what had happened began to spread. 3 Krillian warships had been defeated by a single research vessel. The story seemed impossible, but it was true. Jake Morrison had shown the galaxy that humans were not just survivors. They were protectors, ready to defend those who could not defend themselves. And he was just one of them. The question was, where were the others? The story of what happened with the Krillian ship spread quickly through the galaxy. Within days, other ships were talking about the mysterious research vessel that had defeated 3 warships without taking any damage. Some people thought it was just a story, but others wanted to know more. Captain Zeltar received many messages from other Zephyrian ships asking if the story was true. He told them it was, but he did not tell them about Jake. He wanted to protect his human friend from too much attention. Jake had become a real member of the crew now. The fear and uncertainty that some of them had felt about him was gone. He had proven that he would use his incredible abilities to protect them, not hurt them. Dr. Velnara spent many hours talking with Jake about human culture and history. She was writing a report about him for the Galactic Council, but she wanted to make sure she got everything right. "Tell me about the enhancement program again," she said one day as they sat in the ship's recreation room. "How many humans like you were created?" "About 50 of us completed the full program," Jake replied, "but there were others in different stages of enhancement when Earth was destroyed. Maybe 100 people total who had some level of modification. And you think some of them might still be alive?" "It is possible. We were designed to survive almost anything. If anyone could have escaped the destruction of humanity, it would be the enhanced soldiers." Security Chief Torvan joined their conversation. He had become much friendlier toward Jake since the battle. "If there are others like you out there, how would we find them?" "That's a good question," Jake said. "The enhancement process leaves certain energy signatures that can be detected with the right equipment. But you would have to be looking specifically for them." Captain Zeltar had been thinking about this problem too. "Jake, what if we helped you search for other enhanced humans? The Astral Dawn could cover a lot of territory and we have good scanning equipment." Jake looked surprised. "You would do that? It could be dangerous. We do not know what kind of people the other enhanced soldiers became. Some of them might not be as friendly as I am." "That is a risk we are willing to take," Captain Zeltar said. "If there are beings out there with your abilities, we need to know about them. And if they are good people like you, they might need help too." Dr. Velnara nodded in agreement. "Besides, you have taught us so much already. You showed us new ways to use our ship's systems and new tactical thinking. Having more humans like you could benefit everyone." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Think about it," she said. "You defeated the Krillians without killing anyone. You protected us well, showing mercy to our enemies. That kind of thinking could help bring peace to the galaxy." Jake was quiet for a moment. "There is something I should tell you about the other enhanced soldiers. We were not all given the same modifications. Some were made stronger, some faster, some smarter. A few were given specializations for different types of missions." "What was your specialization?" Torvan asked. "I was designed for ship-to-ship combat and tactical command," Jake said. "That is why I was so effective against the Krillians. But there are others who were designed for different things. Some could interface with any computer system. Others could survive in space without protection. One woman I knew could become invisible to most types of sensors." Captain Zeltar felt excited and worried at the same time. If we found people with those abilities, they could help solve many problems in the galaxy. But they could also cause many problems if they chose to. "That is why we need to find them," Jake said. "Someone has to make contact with them and find out what kind of people they have become. If they are good people, they can help. If they are not, then someone needs to stop them." "And you think you could stop them if necessary?" Dr. Velnara asked. Jake's expression became serious. "I hope I never have to find out, but yes, I think I could. The enhancement process gave us certain weaknesses along with our strengths. I know what those weaknesses are." Over the following weeks, Captain Zeltar worked with his crew to modify the Astral Dawn sensors to detect the energy signatures that Jake described. It was difficult work, but Jake's knowledge of human enhancement technology helped them figure out what to look for. Lieutenant Kethra was particularly helpful with the technical aspects. "If we adjust the sensor array to scan for biosynthetic neural implants, we should be able to detect enhanced humans from a much greater distance," she said. The first test of their modified sensors came when they were exploring a system near the old human colonies. Jake was on the bridge when the sensors detected something unusual on a small moon. "Captain, I am picking up a faint signal," Kethra reported. "It matches the pattern Jake described." "How faint?" Captain Zeltar asked. "Very faint. If there is an enhanced human down there, they are either sleeping or their systems are running on very low power." Jake studied the readings. "It could be another cryogenic pod, or someone who is badly injured and their implants are in emergency mode." "Should we investigate?" Dr. Velnara asked. Jake nodded. "Yes, but carefully. If it is one of my people, they might not react well to seeing aliens at first." They landed on the moon and found the remains of an escape pod that had crashed there long ago. Inside was another cryogenic pod, but this one was damaged and running on backup power. "The pod is failing," Dr. Velnara said after scanning it. "Whoever is inside will die if we do not get them out soon." Jake looked at the identification panel. Her name is Lisa Chen. She was a communications specialist in the enhancement program. They carefully transported the pod back to their ship and began the defrosting process. Jake stayed close to monitor the procedure and to be there when Lisa woke up. When Lisa opened her eyes and saw Jake, she smiled with relief. "Jake Morrison? I thought I was the only one left." "So did I," Jake replied. "These people saved both of us. They are friends." Lisa looked at the Zephyrians with curiosity rather than fear. "Aliens? And they are friendly?" "Very friendly," Jake said. "They have been taking care of me for months." Dr. Velnara stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Astral Dawn, Lisa Chen. We are very happy to meet you." Over the next few days, Lisa told them her story. She had escaped Earth in an evacuation ship that was attacked by enemies. Her escape pod had crashed on the moon, and her cryogenic system had kept her alive but was slowly failing. Lisa's enhancements were different from Jake's. She could interface with almost any communication system and could process multiple data streams simultaneously. She also had the ability to learn new languages incredibly quickly. "There are others," she told them. "Before my ship was destroyed, I detected enhancement signatures from at least 6 other locations. Some of them might still be alive." Captain Zeltar made a decision that would change everything. "We are going to find them, all of them, and we are going to offer them the same thing we offered Jake and Lisa, a home, a purpose, and a chance to use their abilities to help others." "What if some of them do not want to help?" Lisa asked. "Then we will deal with that when it happens," Captain Zeltar said. "But I think most of them will be like you and Jake. Good people who just need someone to give them hope again." As the Astral Dawn set course for the next location where enhanced humans might be found, Jake felt something he had not felt since waking up from his long sleep. He felt hope. He was not alone anymore. Lisa was alive, and there might be others. More importantly, they had found friends among the stars. The Zephyrians had shown them that not all aliens were enemies. Some were explorers and scientists who valued life and knowledge above all else. Jake Morrison had started his journey as the last human in the galaxy. Now he was part of something bigger. He was part of a crew that was bringing hope to the lost and protection to the innocent. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of possibilities. And with friends like the crew of the Astral Dawn, anything seemed possible. The enhanced humans were coming home. Not to Earth, which was gone forever, but to a new home among the stars where they could use their incredible abilities to make the universe a better place for everyone.